One of the biggest tragedies to ever happen in the WWE was when wrestler Owen Hart died during a live pay-per-view event in 1999. He was dressed as his character Blue Blazer, and he was supposed to descend from the arena rafters into the ring prior to his match, but as he attempted the stunt, a configuration error led to his harness disengaging early and Hart falling more than 21 meters into the ring. So this man was supposed to drop down from the ceiling, but then he dropped way too early, I guess, or yeah, way too early, and fell and died. And that's Vince's fault. So he fell almost 8 stories to the ring and he landed on his back on the mat. Owen's injuries were fatal, with reports indicating that he impacted and severed his aorta, leading to his death within minutes. The wrestling community was absolutely shook at his loss and probably really terrified to do things like that ever again. Now, the incident wasn't viewed on live TV, it was pre-recorded. When the broadcasters returned, commentators Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler were left to inform viewers of what had happened. However, later in the show, it was announced that he had died from his injuries. Rather than cancel the show after some delay, Vince decided to continue. Afterwards, there was strong criticism for allowing the stunt to happen in the first place and then going forward with the live event. Like, I would be so traumatized by what had happened, I would just cancel everything. But Vince just sees these men like Janelle as disposable.
Tragedy befell the World Wrestling Federation and all of us. Owen Hart was set to make an entrance from the ceiling, and he fell from the ceiling. And I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that Owen Hart has died. Owen Hart has tragically died from that accident here tonight.
That is so freaky to think about. They're just like casually announcing this. An entire arena just had watched a man die, and everyone's just like going on and cheering like nothing happened. Now, Owen Hart's wife, who's now a widow, Martha, said in an interview, after he lost his fight for life, they just scooped him up and ordered the next match out. Where's humanity? Would he have wanted the show to go on? Absolutely not. The circumstances of Owen Hart's death sparked various conspiracies. Some fans and theorists have speculated about the nature of his accident, questioning if there was more to his tragic fall than mere equipment malfunctions. However, official reports and accounts confirm the incident was a result of the harness failing. Here's a clip of Vince talking about this incident and trying to defend himself.
No, I resent your tone, lady, okay? You know, this was a tragic accident. It's a tragic accident. Don't try and put yourself in the spotlight here, okay? This was an accident. Do you understand what I'm saying? An accident. And everything that should have taken place in terms of rigging, to our knowledge at this moment, did take place. It was rehearsed in the afternoon, and everything was fine. And that's all I know.
So, of course, Vince isn't going to take any accountability or accept any wrongdoing for what had happened to Owen Hart. But there is a theory here because Owen had just broken the neck of one of Vince's favorite wrestlers. And some people feel that, you know, Vince is trying to get back at Owen, and he thought maybe this drop would be a good way to do so. I don't know if he thought he would actually kill Owen Hart. Maybe he did. He does seem like really a crazy man. He would do this to someone. But yeah, I wonder if maybe this was his way of trying to get back at him, breaking the neck of his big star.
Owen Hart's fall was accidental, but many conspiracy theorists claim that Vince McMahon was behind Owen Hart's death and killed him on purpose. The conspiracy theory believes that the reasoning behind this is because Vince McMahon was bitter at Owen Hart for breaking the neck of his biggest star at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin, during the peak of the Monday Night Wars with WCW.
The way the WWE acted after Owen Hart's death does make me wonder if Vince really was out to get him. They showed no sympathy for this man, no honoring, nothing. I mean, Martha Hart, his widow, was vocal about the treatment that WWE had put her through, saying that nobody gave her any personal condolences. She talked to lawyers about, like, I guess, relocation things and where she's gonna go now that her husband is gone. Martha actually expressed her reluctance to see Owen Hart inducted into the Hall of Fame due to WWE's handling of the situation and lack of honoring him over the years. They just really discarded him and acted like this did not happen because they probably didn't want to make the scandal bigger than it really was. I mean, someone died in an arena of hundreds of people watching. That's just like really not okay. Now, of course, Owen Hart's wife, Martha, did sue WWE for wrongful death, but Vince decided to counter-sue her and try to deflect responsibility for the death.
Martha Hart files a lawsuit against WWE, Vince McMahon, the manufacturers of the harness, and the riggers who set up the stunt, the goal being to get justice and accountability for Owen Hart. This begins a long uphill battle for Martha. In response, Vince McMahon wants to move the lawsuit to Connecticut, where WWE's headquarters are located. The reason is because in Connecticut, there are no punitive damages awarded, unlike in Kansas City, where Martha had filed the lawsuit. This causes McMahon to sue Martha Hart on the grounds that Owen Hart, like all other WWE wrestlers, had in his contract that WWE could only be sued in Connecticut.
I mean, how evil can this man get? He not only is trying to, not pay Martha because he, I guess, doesn't feel like she's owed anything, but he's trying to now switch the narrative and blame someone else. I mean, if Vince isn't going to hell for what he did to Janelle, he's going to go to hell for what he did to Owen Hart. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about him faking his own death. I mean, honestly, this seems like it would be the best way for him to get out of all this controversy. Headlines read, when Vince McMahon staged his own death in WWE. Yeah, you heard that right. Back in 2007, he thought he was the main character of everything. Vince was actually sitting in his limo that immediately exploded and was engulfed in flames. The entire episode that day was gloomy. Vince had lost his ECW title and was in the doldrums in WWE. The staff then decided to lift his spirits by organizing a Vince McMahon appreciation night. The only problem is that nobody appreciated him. So, in fact, quite a few different stars returned and took a collective crap all over the boss man, giving him a receipt for his treatment of them over the years. This left Vince walking out of the arena like a tortoise, passing everyone by the last time before reaching his limo, taking one last look behind and then climbing inside. When he shut the door, the limo exploded. Now, Vince wasn't dead, but WWE exploited him like he was. WWE.com quickly reported the incident as though it actually happened. This led to a few more folks to treat the storyline as legit, with some news outlets even reporting that Vince had died. WWE tried to act like this actually happened. They add tributes to Vince from wrestlers, and WWE personalities mourn his death. It was all in bad taste because the press was saying, who was watching The Sopranos last night? Because everyone tuned into WWE to watch Vince get blown up. Who could have done this? Like, our CEO is dead. In times for when people actually died, like Owen Hart and Eddie Guerrero, they didn't do anything. No memorial, no, tributes. But when Vince faked his death, everyone did the most.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you all may have heard, Mr. McMahon's limo exploded. It is presumed Mr. McMahon is deceased, and as a result, the SmackDown superstars are out here to pay their respects.
Now, the apparent plan for the conclusion of this storyline was for Vince to make a shocking return later in the summer to say he faked his own death with the help of an accomplice. He thought maybe when he returned with an accomplice, this accomplice could be the next big wrestling star. But this never came to fruition because the entire storyline was suddenly scrapped when reality turned out to be far more horrifying than fiction. The same day that Vince's memorial service show was scheduled to take place, with wrestlers even being instructed to wear black suits for the occasion, police found the body of Chris Benoit, who had committed suicide after killing his wife and son days before. Now, Chris was one of these wrestlers, so now his body's found the same day that Vince's memorial service is happening, and this guy had also harmed his family, so clearly he's not mentally well. WWE quickly canceled the memorial service that night and aired a tribute to Chris, which preceded by Vince admitting that his death was part of an ill-timed storyline.
Tonight's storyline was to have been the alleged demise of my character, Mr. McMahon. However, in reality, WWE superstar Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their son Daniel are dead.
Many of the same wrestlers who were mourning Vince's fake death not long before were mourning Chris's actual death. However, they were unaware of the circumstances that Chris had taken out his wife and his child before he took out himself. Once they were alerted to as much, they quickly distanced themselves from the entire situation. In fact, when Vince and WWE learned more about what Chris had done, about, killing his wife and his baby, they decided they would never use his name again. And I guess the tribute was in bad timing as well. Now, a bow tie McIntyre was put on the Vince death storyline by his explaining on August 6th episode of Raw that he faked his death simply to see what everyone thought of him. This quickly led into his next angle, which was that he had an illegitimate son and the mystery surrounding who it would turn out to be. And honestly, his storylines are getting so old. It's kind of why I think wrestling is so corny, because he creates these stupid storylines and he forced his employees to do really embarrassing things, which I think just made wrestling less and less serious. On many occasions, Vince made wrestlers put their faces in his butt. This was referred to as the Kiss My Ass Club. He would literally pull down his pants and force their face into his butt, which I'm not going to show because we don't want to get in trouble from YouTube, but we can blur it. You can imagine it. He'd also force female employees to do inappropriate skits with him and other male wrestlers for a good storyline. For example, he took it too far when he and a female wrestler were pretending to get intimate, but he kept getting interrupted. They finally got privacy, and once Vince got nude, he then acts like he's getting a BJ and then opens his eyes to see his wife, which is a little bit too real since this man is known for cheating on his wife.
Show Vince appeared with Tori Wilson backstage and questioned how badly she wanted to become a WWF superstar, and it became clear that Vince could make this happen provided Tori made love with him. Although despite several attempts, the two were continuously interrupted, first by Stone Cold whilst in the shower, then by Kurt Angle in a mop closet, and also by Perry Saturn in a bathroom. Vince and Tori then made their way to the laundry room where they finally had some privacy. Tori began to undress Vince and then asked him to close his eyes. McMahon obliged, only for a few seconds to pass before he opened his eyes again. And when he did, staring back at Vince was his wife Linda, looking on in disgust.
And I've got a big surprise for you.
So the storyline is weird, and I'm sure his wife was a little bit embarrassed. I mean, I would have been cringing. A former female wrestler named Sable actually sued him for taking his storylines too far. Sable was portrayed as a sex symbol by Vince and always wrote her storylines where she's found backstage making out with some male wrestler. He even wrote a script where she became his mistress and they made out many times. 1999, Sable quit and she filed a $110 million lawsuit against the company. They did allegations of harassment and unsafe working conditions. She alleges that WWE instructed her to expose her breasts and someone smeared feces on her personal belongings. Ew. She also says that male wrestlers punched holes into the walls between the men's and women's dressing rooms for a view of the female wrestlers. Ew. This lawsuit was very real, but Vince has a pattern where he countersues people, and he countersued her for control over her stage name. Later, Sable reduced the $110 million that she was looking in damages and ended it all when Sable and WWE settled out of court for an unknown amount, but it was probably much smaller than $100 million. But he didn't just push his limits with Sable, he pushed his limits with his own family, including his daughter, and it got a little bit creepy. Stephanie McMahon tied the knot with Triple H in 2003. When the billion-dollar princess became pregnant with the couple's first daughter 2 years later, her dad Vince suggested a storyline in which he would reveal himself to be the father of the child. This is something that Stephanie was not about, saying, "My dad did approach me about wanting to be the father of my baby in a storyline for TV," which again, only the second time I've ever actually said no to him for something he wanted to do. That was just a little too gross. Actually, it's completely disgusting. I don't find it entertaining at all. I can't fake kiss my dad like we were in love or something. It's just revolting. So Stephanie, of course, turned down her father's idea for this storyline, which would have revealed him as her father, which would have been really disgusting. Vince suggested another angle in which the father would instead be her brother Shane. So something still very incest vibes, which why is Vince like turned on by this? He said, then he came up with the idea of Shane to actually be the father of my baby, my brother. And I again just know that I know that sometimes that happens in the world, but it's not going to happen with us. I just can't do that. That's too much. Either way, Stephanie did give her father what he wanted because she started an online feud with her mother, Linda, of being jealous and threatened by her. She actually had to slap her mother in the face for this segment, and she tweeted about it saying that slapping her mother was one of the hardest things she ever had to do on television, disclosing that it made her nauseous. So why is Vince putting his... It is just unreal. It is not okay. And Vince has done other things that are also weird, like pooping his pants in the ring, getting arrested in the ring, and almost killing a WWE writer while street racing. Thank you for watching this clip from the Let's Get Into It podcast. To view the full episode, visit the link listed below.